Hello everybody. Today in this session we are going to discuss about the tubuloglomerular feedback mechanism, which is also one of the important defense mechanism for renal system, and it actually helps to maintain the autoregulation of renal blood flow. So it is one of the important factor for the autoregulation of the renal blood flow, and it also helps to maintain our constant rate of the GFR or maintain the normalcy of the GFR. So autoregulation of renal blood flow and maintenance of the maintenance of the GFR. So to understand this topic particularly, we have to first know about the juxtaglomerular apparatus. What is that? Juxtaglomerular apparatus. So what is the juxtaglomerular apparatus? It is basically is a structure which is present in the distal part of the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle and the very early part of the distal convoluted tubule when it meet with its own afferent arteriole of the same nephron. That means if we depict this juxtaglomerular apparatus in a particular nephron, then it will be look like that. Suppose it is the Bowman capsule, and from here our afferent, our proximal convoluted tubule will start going down. Then it will produce thin descending limb of loop of Henle. Finally, it will produce loop of Henle, and further it will move up as a thin ascending limb of loop of Henle, from where it will produce thick ascending limb of loop of Henle, like that. So this is the tall part. That means the thick ascending limb of loop of Henle. And from here it will go to the produce the distal convoluted tubule, finally the collecting duct. So overall it is a structure of the nephron tubule, and here it is our afferent arteriole. It will come here and going to produce efferent arteriole. It is like narrower efferent arteriole, and afferent arteriole is more dilated. So it is the afferent arteriole, and in between this there is a glomerular capillary. Now, exactly at which area this juxtaglomerular apparatus is present? As I have said already, it is present at the distal part of the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle and very early part of the distal convoluted tubule. That means somewhere at this area where it match with its own afferent arteriole. So it is the afferent arteriole, and here it is the efferent arteriole. Blood fluid filtration will come through this afferent arteriole and pass through the glomerular capillary network and will produce filtrate, and some amount will reach into the efferent arteriole, which contains mainly the proteins. As we have previously discussed about the Starling force and the glomerulotubular balance in the early video, you can please go through this video where you can understand about the Starling force and the importance of the oncotic pressure of the peritubular capillary network, which actually help to drag the fluid from the proximal part of the nephron, and which is all about our glomerulotubular balance. But now here I will discuss mainly on the tubuloglomerular feedback, and this tubuloglomerular feedback is actually mediated by this juxtaglomerular apparatus, and which is present mainly at the junction between the distal part of the thick ascending limb of loop of Henle and the early part of the distal convoluted tubule, along with the afferent arteriole of the same nephron. So this is the area of the juxtaglomerular apparatus. Juxtaglomerular apparatus. Now this juxtaglomerular apparatus consists of three types of cells. One is the macula densa, one is the macula densa, second is the extraglomerular mesangial cell, which is also known as Lassis cell. Extraglomerular mesangial cells, which is also known as the Lassis cell or the Pulkinson cell. Okay, and third one is the granular cell or the JG cell. So these are the three types of cells that are or juxtaglomerular cells. So these are the three types of cell which are present in this juxtaglomerular apparatus. Again, one is the macula densa. Second one is the, suppose here it is the macula densa, cells of macula densa. So here it is the cells of macula densa. Okay. Second one is the extraglomerular mesangial cell. This is the second one, extraglomerular mesangial cell. So here somewhere in this zone it is present. And third one is the granular cell or the Pulkinson cell, or the JG cell. So granular cell or JG cell is particularly present at the junction between this extraglomerular mesangial cell or the Pulkinson cell or Lassis cell and the lining of the epithelial lining of the endothelial cell lining of the afferent arteriole. So here it is the JG cell, and this is the juxtaglomerular apparatus. Now, with having this idea, let's move on to the next factor, that as we have previously discussed many a time, due to some physiological condition like sleep, posture changes, exercise, or after taking protein meal, our GFR changes constantly. But somewhere the tubular-glomerular feedback mechanism also helps to normalize the GFR under the normal physiological circumstances. Suppose when there will be in changing the posture from the sleeping or the supine posture to the sitting upright posture or the standing posture, immediately our GFR will be increased, or even after taking the protein diet, our GFR will be increased. So if there will be increased GFR under the physiological circumstances, what will happen? Much amount of filtrate will present in the proximal part of the nephron. Much amount of filtrate will present in the proximal part of the nephron. Now, suppose I will try to give one example. If I will throw a bunch of mangoes to you, can you able to catch all these mangoes at a single point of time? No, it is simply not possible. Similarly, if I will throw mango one after another, then you can easily catch the mangoes. Similarly, when there will be increased filtrate will present in the proximal convoluted tubule, and there will be increased tubular fluid flow rate, there will be increased tubular fluid flow rate as a result of increased GFR. The proximal convoluted tubule, which has specific mechanism for absorbing the solutes and water via the glomerulotubular balance mechanism, it will simply fail. And as a result of this, maximum amount of sodium ion solutes, other solutes and water will eventually come into the distal part of the nephron, or the late part of the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle. So there normally, if under normal circumstances, if GFR will normal, then this sodium ion and water almost 67 to 70% is basically reabsorbed via the proximal convoluted tubule, which is a part of the glomerulotubular balance mechanism. But if there will be increased GFR due to taking the protein diet or changing of the posture from the supine to the sitting upright posture or the standing posture, there will be increase in the tubular fluid flow rate, and much amount of filtrate, mainly the sodium and water, will come into the distal part of the nephron, and sodium load will be more higher in the distal part of the nephron compared to the proximal part of the nephron. And as a result of this, there will be chance for much amount of sodium ion and water excretion to the body, and which is not the desirable factor, because the sodium ion and water, if we will lose, our blood pressure as well as extracellular fluid volume will be decreased severely, and which is not at all helpful for our body. So somehow it has to be reabsorbed again, so that the GFR will be normal, as well as our body sodium ion balance and water will also be present in a normal range. So in this way, this tubuloglomerular feedback mechanism is actually operating. Now, this tubuloglomerular feedback mechanism is actually operating in the juxtaglomerular apparatus area. So again, if we try to draw the juxtaglomerular apparatus in a single platform of this slide, then how it will be look like. Suppose it is the tubular lumen. It is the tubular lumen. Now, here it is the macula densa. Here it is our macula densa, and again here it is again the next macula densa. So by this way these are organized. So it is the tubular lumen. Of course, it is the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle, tubular lumen. Second one is the macula densa. It is macula densa. Okay. Now, in between this, there is a lacis cell, which is also known as extraglomerular mesangial cells. So this is the lacis cells. And then we have the afferent arteriole, but at the lining of the endothelial lining of the afferent arteriole, what we have? We have the granular cell or the JG cell, juxtaglomerular cell. So here it is our JG cells. Here it is our JG cells. Here it is our JG cells and JG cells. In between the JG cell, what is present? The electrical window, which is also known as the gap junction, which is also known as the gap junction. So what happens when there will be fluid will pass through this tubular lumen due to failure mechanism of the glomerulotubular balance in the proximal part of the nephron. Due to increased tubular fluid flow rate, much amount of sodium will present into the distal part of the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle. So more number of sodium ion is basically present now here. In the apical side of the tubular lumen, the channel is present here. It is the sodium potassium 2 chloride ion symporter. This channel is known as the sodium potassium 2 chloride ion symporter, which is also known as NKCC2. NKCC2. So under normal circumstances, what happens? If there will be normal GFR, this sodium, one molecule of sodium, 1 ion of potassium, and 2 ion of chloride ion will simultaneously get reabsorbed through this NKCC2 channel, and it will eventually come into the macula densa. And in the basolateral side of this tubular lumen, the pump is present is known as the sodium potassium ATPase pump. And by this way, this sodium reabsorbed sodium and potassium ion will come into the medullary interstitium eventually. So by this way, this sodium potassium pump will actually help to reabsorb this sodium ion into the medullary interstitium, which is known as the sodium potassium ATPase pump. This is the normal circumstances. But when there will be increased GFR, then what happens? Much amount of sodium ion will present, and as a result of this all sodium ion will be reabsorbed first by this sodium potassium 2 chloride ion symporter, and so many sodium ion will accumulate into the macula densa. But macula densa has a limited capacity for getting reabsorbed of the sodium ion by this sodium potassium ATPase pump. And as a result of this, all the reabsorbed sodium ion will not be taken up by this sodium potassium ATPase pump, and more number of sodium ion will eventually accumulate into this macula densa, and that will lead to increased osmolarity of the macula densa. Now, if there will be more amount of sodium ion present in a particular cell, as sodium ion is osmotically active agent, it will drag water from the interstitial tissue zone, and as a result of this, the cell will lysed because of the much swelling of the cell, presence of more water and sodium ion. Eventually, cell will be lysed. Now, within the cell, the important factor is present, that is the ATP. This ATP then again will come out from the macula densa due to lysis of the cell, due to increased osmolarity of the macula densa and increased swelling of the macula densa. So this ATP will come out through the macula densa either by the Panexin channel. It is known as the Panexin channel, by which this ATP will come out into the Lassis cell or extraglomerular mesangial cell, or this ATP can be converted into adenosine. ATP will be converted eventually into the adenosine, which is also known as ADO, by the 5' nucleotidase. And this adenosine will easily come out from the cell by the simple diffusion, and both this ATP and adenosine will work on the JG cells. So these are the JG cells. Now they will work on the JG cell. First, what happens? First, this ATP will work on the purinergic channel. This is known as the purinergic P2X channel. P2X channel is present at the lining of the JG cell, as well as there will be another channel or receptor is present, which is known as the adenosine A1 receptor. So A1 receptor is for the adenosine, where the adenosine will attach with the adenosine A1 receptor, and ATP will attach to the P2X receptor. Both these receptors are type of G-protein coupled receptor, which has action similar with the GQ, and GQ mediated action will lead to production of the or accumulation of the calcium ion, into the JG cell. Now this accumulated calcium ion then further propagate through the cells, adjacent cells of the JG cell, by these gap junctions. This calcium ion will transmit to the adjacent JG cells. This calcium ion will propagate via the gap junction or the electrical windows present in between the JG cells, and ultimately it will constrict the afferent arteriole. So here it is the afferent arteriole, it will constrict the afferent arteriole. As a result of this, there will be reduced GFR. So GFR will be reduced. As a result of GFR will be reduced. Now, if we try to understand this juxtaglomerular apparatus as well as the tubuloglomerular feedback mechanism in a flow chart, then it will be look like that when there will be increased GFR, under the physiological circumstances, like protein diet or the erect posture, supine from the erect posture, there will be increased sodium and chloride ion load, increased NaCl sodium ion chloride ion load in the late part of the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle or adjacent to the macula densa. Now there will be more uptake of sodium ion chloride ion via the sodium potassium 2 chloride ion symporter, and eventually more amount of sodium ion present will lead to more accumulation of water into this macula densa site, in macula densa site, and as a result of this there will be swelling of the cell, and this swelling of the cell will lead to moving of the ATP from the macula densa, because ATP is already present in a cell, and this ATP will come out from the cell by the lysis, and as well as this ATP can also be converted into the adenosine by the 5' nucleotidase, and this adenosine will come out from the cell by the simple diffusion. Now this ATP will work on the purinergic P2X receptor, and adenosine will work on the adenosine A1 receptor present in the JG cells. So present in the JG cells, these two receptors, and this ATP will work on the P2X receptor, and adenosine work on the adenosine A1 receptor, which are basically G protein coupled receptor and has action similar with the GQ. So GQ mediated action will lead to phosphorylation of the protein kinase C. This phosphorylation of the protein kinase C will ultimately lead to increased calcium ion influx. So increased calcium ion influx into the JG cells, and adjacent to the JG cell there will be gap junction or the electrical window. So via this way calcium can propagate through the adjacent JG cells. Calcium ion propagates through the gap junctions and will reach into the afferent arteriole. And this afferent arteriole, as a due to presence of this calcium ion, it will constrict. So vasoconstriction will occur in the afferent arteriole. So as there will be vasoconstriction, the GFR will be reduced. So, or we can say GFR will normalized. On the other way, if their GFR will be reduced some during the sleeping condition or during exercise, when there will be reduced GFR, this mechanism will not work. Rather, there will be production of nitric oxide in the macula densa, which is recently discovered. So when there will be reduced GFR, at that time, due to slower movement of the fluid, more amount of sodium and water will be absorbed by this proximal convoluted tubule via the glomerulotubular balance mechanism, and less amount of sodium will reach into the distal part of the nephron, thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle, and as a result of this, there will be less amount of sodium ion will be reabsorbed by the sodium potassium 2 chloride ion importer. But due to some chemical mechanism which is still unknown, there will be production of the nitric oxide in the macula densa, and this nitric oxide eventually will do what? It will actually vasodilate the afferent arteriole. Not only it will vasodilate the afferent arteriole, by which there will be increase in the GFR, but also it will actually help to production in the production of the renin. This renin will actually important chemical substance for the renin angiotensin aldosterone system. As there will be reduced GFR, so the blood pressure will also be reduced at that time. But due to production of this renin by this production of nitric oxide, it will activate the renin angiotensin aldosterone system, and finally by the angiotensin 2 and the aldosterone, this will actually normalize our GFR by increased sodium and water reabsorption and some other mechanism which will be discussed in our renin angiotensin aldosterone system. So here we try to understand that when there will be reduced GFR, there will be production of the nitric oxide in the macula densa, which is recently discovered, and it will actually vasodilate the afferent arteriole, that will lead to increase in the GFR or normalize of the GFR, as well as from the afferent arteriole, it will actually help to trigger for the production of the renin. And renin is the chemical substance for the renin angiotensin aldosterone system, which actually normalized our GFR as well as our blood pressure by the production of the angiotensin 2 and the aldosterone by the several mechanism. So these are all about our tubuloglomerular feedback mechanism. Now, clinical importance is that this sodium potassium 2 chloride ion channel, NKCC2 channel, can be mutated. So if there is mutation occur in a particular disease, which is known as the Bartter syndrome. So here in the Bartter syndrome, the mutation of the sodium potassium 2 chloride co-transporter will produce. And as a result of this, there will be failure of the tubuloglomerular feedback mechanism. This is one of the clinical importance. Second clinical entity is that the hepatorenal syndrome. In case of hepatorenal syndrome, also there will be failure of the tubuloglomerular feedback mechanism. And in the late stage of the diabetes mellitus, in diabetic nephropathy, so diabetic nephropathy, both the tubuloglomerular feedback and the glomerulotubular balance mechanism will be disrupted. Glomerulotubular balance mechanism and the tubuloglomerular feedback mechanism will be disrupted. So these are the clinical importance about our tubuloglomerular feedback and the glomerulotubular balance. Hope you will understand this topic from this tutorial session, and it will helpful for your future development of the concept on this renal physiology. Thank you.